Good morning, Bimblers, and you join me here at Kirkham and Westham Station, and today we're on our way into Blackpool. Hopefully the sun's going to come out. We've been from Blackpool to Kirkham before, along National Cycle Route 62, in my National Cycle Route 62 Bimbles, my Trans-Pennine Bimble. But today we're going the other way to see what we see. So let's stop messing about. Let's bimble.
Minimal force is the groove, magnetically brought me to you. Visions that cut through the cold to my heart. Feelings of warmth now resume, feeling that coming from you, bursting to blow at the seams of my heart. As if this was love that I felt, falling for somebody else, taking my eyes from the ground, turning my heart upside down. As if this could change all the past, fixing the bruise from the last time that I felt anything. As if this was love that I felt, as if this was somebody else.
And so, Bimblers, we reach our first portage, Wrea Green. It's very picturesque, very cute and very quaint. There's lots of little signs here, and lots of ducks on the duck pond. And they've got a Victorian postbox with VR on the front. That stands for Victoria Vagina. So it goes back to when Victoria was Queen. Wrea Green wasn't always known as Wrea Green. That came in around about the 1800s, no doubt with the coming of that postbox. It used to just be called Wrea, but they used to get it mixed up with another Wrea near Hornby, near Lancaster. And when you were sending out your letters, it could be posted in the wrong end of Lancashire. Closer to Cumbria up there, aren't they? So they changed the name to Wrea Green, naming it after this great big green thing in the middle of the village. It's rather the focal point. There's a few old bylaws about this green from bygone times, and they go as follows. No person shall drive or wheel any cart, truck or other vehicle onto the village green. No person shall beat or shake carpets or rugs. No person shall dig, cut or remove any sods. No person shall light a fire. No person shall hold a public meeting, religious, political or otherwise, on the green. Very strict. But one thing that wasn't very cute about Wrea Green came in 1897. They were hit by a plague of sparrows, and a bounty was put on the sparrows' heads. The people of Wrea Green could get half an old pence for any sparrows' eggs or dead sparrows that they handed in. So obviously people were going out and killing all the sparrows. And if you look around today, there's not a sparrow to be seen. It's all ducks. As if Wrea Green couldn't get any more perfect for me, they've got a little church over there, St Nicholas's Church. And that was built by Edward Graham Paley in his first partnership of Sharp and Paley, and they built it back in 1849. But get on this, in 1894, when it became fashionable to have steeples on your churches, lest we forget, a lot of churches didn't have steeples until the late Victorian era. Well, Edward Graham Paley came back under his second partnership, Paley and Austin, with Hubert Austin, and they put the spire on. And it cost £1,300 for that spire, which was a lot of money back then, especially when you consider that the rest of the church only cost £1,600. All in today's money, that church would have been worth £300,000. Expensive stuff. But speaking of churches, let's bimble.
Brought out in colourful sparks, brought back to light from the dark. broke out in shimmering waves to my heart. Sepia tint but the same, familiar in simplified ways. Broke down the lily white scars to my heart. As if this was love that I felt, falling for somebody else, taking my eyes from the ground, turning my heart upside down. As if this could change all the past, fixing the bruise from the last time that I felt anything. As if this was love that I felt, as if this was somebody else.
This is St Michael's Church here in Weeton, and I can look over the graveyard across the dual carriageway and see the Blackpool Tower. It means we're getting close, Bimblers. St Michael's Church here in Weeton wasn't built by Edward Graham Paley. It was built by another fella called Edwin Hugh Shellard. He built lots of churches around the northwest, but why I find him interesting is because he built some of the buildings around Ross Hall School. If you know anything about Ross Hall School, it used to be Ross Hall Hall, and it was where Sir Peter Hesker Fleetwood lived before he built the town of Fleetwood. He invented Fleetwood. He invented railways to the seaside. Therefore, he invented bimbling down the promenade at Blackpool. And as a byproduct, he also invented my favourite chippy in Fleetwood. Sir Peter Hesker Fleetwood rented his hall to Ross Hall School for 10 years. And whilst he was building Fleetwood the town, he came into some money worries, so he actually sold the hall to the school. And then they got Edwin Hugh Shellard to build him a nice assembly room called Big School. Mr Shellard's finest work is supposed to be St John's Minster in Preston. That's according to Nicolaus Pevsner. He's the author of Buildings of England, which is often cited when you're talking about all these Victorian architects. I'm going to have to get myself a copy of it really, aren't I? The land that St Michael's Church stands on was donated by the 13th Earl of Derby and Edward Smith Stanley, and he was the MP for Preston between 1796 and 1812. In 1812, he was beat by a fella called Edmund Hornby. As a tenuously related fact, Edmund Hornby had a son called Edmund George Hornby, and he was the first MP for Warrington. He was MP for Warrington between 1832 and 1835. That's around about the same time that Sir Peter Hesker Fleetwood would have been the MP for Preston. Even more tenuous, but linked to our last Bimble, the second MP for Warrington was John Island Blackburn. We mentioned him in our last Bimble because he used to live at Hale House. And it took me researching St Michael's Church here in Weeton to find out that little nugget. Let's Bimble.
As if this was love that I felt, falling for somebody else, taking my eyes from the ground, turning my heart upside down. As if this could change all the past, fixing the bruise from the last time that I felt anything. As if this was love that I felt, as if this was somebody else.
Hopefully tight enough, Bimblers, to make it to our next portage. That's Bimble. Well, Bimblers, we reached Stanley Park and the sun's come out. I'm going to have to put some sun cream on in a minute. We've bimbled to Stanley Park in a previous bimble. That would be my Blackpool 2 bimble. Should probably watch it. I told you all about the ringtail parakeets and the Cocker Tower and the fact that the zoo's just around the corner and the boating lake and the Art Deco cafe. But what I didn't know at the time was just outside of the main gates of the park is a very rare post box. I've only just got into these post boxes, but I've got into it hard. I'm forever looking at post boxes on Google, going on Google Street View and seeing if I can see the royal ciphers, see if there's any interesting ones for me to visit on my bimbles. And there's definitely an interesting one here at Stanley Park, an Edward VIII post box. If you know anything about Edward VIII, he wasn't king for very long. He became king on the 20th of January 1936 when his father George V died. And he was only king for 11 months, up until December 1936. He was the firstborn son of George V, which meant that he was the Prince of Wales before he was the king. He even visited Blackpool whilst he was the Prince of Wales. Back in 1921, the royal train pulled up into Fleetwood Station. That's right, Fleetwood had a train station. That's the whole reason Fleetwood was invented, to get trains to the seaside. It's really weird that they don't have a train station now, but that's for a different bimble. The royal party went on to Ross Hall School, which is where Sir Peter Hesk of Fleetwood used to live. They went on from there to Blackpool Promenade, which is where we're off next. And then they went to St Anne's and Lytham, and Kirkham, where we started today's bimble, and then Preston. It's almost as if they followed National Cycle Route 62. I don't think they were on their bicycles. From there they went off to Chorley and Leyland and finished the day at Wigan, and that's where the Prince of Wales got back on a train and went back to Buckingham Palace. Anyway, Edward, when he was the Prince of Wales, was a bit of a player. He liked to drink, he liked to go to parties, and he liked having lots of girlfriends. And one of his girlfriends was called Wallis Simpson. She was an American woman. Before she was Wallis Simpson, she was Wallis Spencer, and her maiden name was Warfield. She'd been divorced twice, and he wanted to marry her. And when he became king, that was a big no-no. You weren't allowed to marry a divorced woman and then become king, so he was told that he wasn't to marry her. He became king, and after 11 months he decided to abdicate so that he could marry Wallis Simpson. It's quite a nice story really, isn't it? It's a bit like Charles and Camilla, only no one died as a result of it. After he abdicated, his brother George became the king, and he became George VI. There's lots of post boxes with his royal cipher on as well. He had a daughter named Elizabeth, and she became Elizabeth II, or as we know her, the Queen. Anyway, let's bimble.
Over time, clouds kept the light from those eyes. Still, love grown consumed, and you know I'll never let it go. You'll find in time, I'll never let it go. You'll find it's right. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind. I'll only ever know how to speak my mind, my mind.
And so we reached Journey's End, Bimblers, North Pier. Just been and had some chips and had a little walk down the prom, taking the sights and sounds of Blackpool. But now it's time to talk about North Pier, isn't it? It's a major focal point. Just after the Blackpool Tower, you think of North Pier, don't you, when you think about Blackpool? The pier was built between 1862 and 1863 by a clever chap called Eugenius Birch. Eugenius graduated from the Institute of Civil Engineers, and he went into partnership with his brother, John Brannis Birch. And then they went off to India to help and build some railways. The East Indian Railway from Delhi to Calcutta. And when they came back to the UK, they found that everyone was obsessed with the seaside, as they should be. They started designing things for the seaside, Ilfracombe Harbour and the aquarium in Brighton. In 1857, they designed Margate Pier, or Margate Jetty as it used to be known, before they built the big pier. When it was still a stone jetty, Turner did a painting of it. If you didn't see the title of the painting, I don't think you'd know that it was supposed to be a jetty. The pier that the Birch brothers both built was destroyed in 1977 by a storm, and what was left of that was destroyed even further in 1978. They eventually dismantled it in 1998 by blowing it up. The second pier that Eugenius and John built was North Pier here in Blackpool. It uses Eugenius Birch's famous screw pile legs that go all the way into the sand, deeper than any of the other piers. That's probably why North Pier is still standing. When it was built, North Pier was always the posh pier, the place where the well-to-do people went. They used to charge you to get in. In fact, they used to charge you to get down the pier up until 2011. Back then they would have had orchestral performances and high-profile comedians, but very clean comedians. Not like today with your Joey Blower and your guest appearances from Chubby Brown. Eugenius and John Birch went on to make lots of other piers, most of which were destroyed by storms. Billy Wynne doesn't like these piers, he likes to destroy them. He doesn't like me doing these pieces to camera either.